Right, so following from where we left off, we were looking at the structure and function of different organelles. And now we're moving on to the mitochondria. Um, Mitochondria is plural, so that means there's many mitochondria and one mitochondrion. This is the singular. So the mitochondria is very obvious. It's the sausage-shaped organelle. Okay, but it can't be eaten. It's not like your sausages. It's surrounded by a double membrane. So if you look over here, there's an outer membrane and there is an inner membrane that is very folded. And right inside the inner membrane is what we call the matrix. Yeah, but it's nothing like that sort of bullet dodging matrix if you've watched it. It's just called the matrix, the center of the mitochondria. And what mitochondria do, they carry out this very important process called aerobic respiration. Okay, aerobic respiration is very important because it actually releases energy for cell activities. It actually acts, it's a process where you combine glucose with oxygen. So glucose and oxygen to produce energy. So we'll talk about that in another topic later on. And the inner membrane here, you can see the inner membrane here is very, very folded. And it's folded into these folds called cristae. You don't need to know this word, but it's many, many, many folds. And that is to increase the surface area for respiration. Okay, so there's more, you can squeeze more membrane when you fold it up, and that increases the amount of area for aerobic respiration. It's how the mitochondria is adapted for its function. Now moving on, I mentioned this organelles called the centrioles, which are only found in animal cells. So they are rod-like structures, usually they're shown like this in diagrams, and their most important function is that they help in cell division. During cell division, centrioles will move to the opposite ends of the cell, and they will help the cell to split and to pull apart into two. So that's centrioles. I'm just going to talk a bit about vacuoles as well in animals. A vacuole is really just a fluid-filled space surrounded by a membrane. And the main function is storage, keeping different things. They're like your cupboards. They're like your little storage spaces in your cell. And more often than not in animals, these are temporary. They disappear once the substances are used up. In plants, however, the vacuole is a lot bigger. Okay, you see a large and central vacuole, and it's more permanent. And it contains a fluid. Okay, the fluid inside the vacuole we call it the cell sap. Okay, you see there? And the membrane of the central vacuole that surrounds it, that we call the tonoplast. Okay, so just some new words for you guys to pick up. The tonoplast and the cell sap. Now similarly, the vacuole in plants is used to store substances, and in plants this range from things like sugar, mineral salts, amino acids, and here even pigments. So if you look at the vacuoles of petal cells found in flower petals, you'll find that sometimes they have pigments. The second function of the vacuole is that it actually maintains pressure to support the cell. So over here, look here, we're going to talk about this in the next topic. But when a plant cell absorbs a lot of water, it is the vacuole, okay, that exerts a pressure outwards. Okay, so as the vacuole gets filled up, it starts to expand, and it is that pressure outward that causes the cell to be very firm, very, very stable, very firm. Next, we're going to talk about the cell wall of the plant. It's made of cellulose, mainly. Okay, but there are also other substances in there besides cellulose. It is fully permeable. Unlike the cell membrane, this can actually allow a lot of different substances in. And the main three functions are it protects the cell from injury, protective layer, gives it a very fixed and regular shape, so you get plant cells organized very nicely in their, fixed shape. Imagine if they were all different shapes, you wouldn't be able to stack them up very nicely. And it also prevents the cell from bursting. So just now I was talking about water coming in to the vacuole. Imagine the vacuole expanding. It is the cell wall that prevents the cell from bursting. Okay, the vacuole expands, right? It pushes against the cell wall, and the cell wall resists. It pushes back and helps the cell not to burst. And finally, we're going to be talking about the chloroplast. Now, chloroplasts are only found in plants. They are oval-shaped pill or pill-shaped structures. And the most important function of chloroplasts is that they contain chlorophyll for photosynthesis. And if you look into a chloroplast, you'll see that it also has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. Okay, a bit like the mitochondria. But right inside, there are also these membrane stacks. And these membrane stacks are what contain your chlorophyll, which carry out photosynthesis. On the diagram point of view, normally you see chloroplasts drawn like this. You can see the little stacks of chlorophyll inside, and mitochondria drawn like this. So they're a bit different. You need to be able to tell the difference. Alright, we're coming to the end of this section. So I want you to really consolidate your knowledge. What are the structures and functions of each organelle that you've talked about? You can also reflect on which organelles help to make proteins. Which are the organelles which are actually involved in making proteins? And I want you to also complete that table about the differences between plant and animal cells. So come prepared with the table. We're going to be using it in our next lesson. And please jot down any questions that you have as well. Alright, see you in class.